Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Ride with B. You can consider this a part 2 of my first episode, Don't Judge. Today's topic is a girl's reputation. First, let's address the topic of why people even talk in the first place. Maybe they're bored and have nothing better to do. Maybe they're jealous because they're not like the people they talk about, so they just try to make themselves feel better by making others look worse. Maybe it's fun to gossip. Now look, I'm not exactly an angel here. I, being the human that I am, have fallen into the trap of getting sucked into gossip too. It happens with the best of us, and we obviously know it's wrong, which is why we need to consciously be aware of ourselves when we do it, and stop ourselves once we get into it. But what I want to talk about today are the people who go the extra mile to hurt someone, whether intentionally or not. These people are instigators. They just love to throw gas on the flames. For example, they'll go to someone like a relative or something and be like, "Do you see what your cousin's been doing?" And of course, just to add a little spice, they will really dramatize whatever's going on. Like the girl might have been standing near a guy, doesn't even know him, and the relative happens to catch her at that exact moment, so she'll say something like, "Your cousin has been dating this man, and this is only what I saw. So Allahu Alam what's been going on behind our backs." Now we've cut past the gossip and talking about people just for the sake of talking about people, and we've dived straight into the territory of talking about a girl's ard, or shut up. I mean, listen to this word. I'll say it again, ard. It's such a heavy word because it has such a heavy meaning, and people don't realize that. People who do that don't realize that A, they're potentially ruining this girl's life, and B, it's gonna come back to them eventually. Why? Because what goes around comes around. So if you're a mom who does that with other people's daughters, don't be surprised when it happens with your kids. As for guys who talk about girls like that, they're probably the kind of guys who do something like 100 times worse. But because of the community we live in and the patriarchy and all that, well, let's just say it sucks to be a girl. Girls, for some reason, in our community are held to a certain set of standards. Now, I'm not saying this is the Islamic way, but it's certainly the traditional way. A girl is expected to be quiet and calm, stay at home, not go out too much, not stay out too late. If she's gonna laugh, she better make sure no one can hear her. She can't talk too loud, she can't be too outgoing. She needs to dress modestly. The list goes on, people. But as soon as a girl steps out of that set of expectations, she's different or unusual, which means she's not like us, whatever that means. Now, mind you, she might not be doing anything aib or haram. Some people believe that it's within their human rights to talk about her and spread the news. Like, stay away from her. She's not like us. But you know, alhamdulillah, I have it easy. I'm part of a community and a family that is somewhat understanding. I studied journalism, which means I could have literally appeared on TV every day. I do public speaking all the time. I go out and travel and learn, and I'm exposed to new and amazing opportunities. Alhamdulillah, I have my parents to thank for that. I also went to an international school and an American university, so I was mixing with people from all sorts of different cultures. Having said that, my mom would constantly warn us about making sure we do something that's not too crazy for our community to handle. So I was one of the lucky ones, and even I get talked about. Some people say I'm too outgoing or I talk too much, and I just think it's ridiculous, because if I wasn't the way I was, I wouldn't be carrying a master's degree. I wouldn't be in the job I'm currently in, and so much more. But subhanAllah, people will always have something to say, because again, it's one of their human rights. But just to go back to my point, I have it easy compared to other girls who come from really strict communities. Pretty much people who look at me and think I'm crazy. They're really not allowed to do anything. And if they did, their reputation is in the gutter, and their community would shun them. And I just want to take this moment to remind you all of what happened with Isra Ghraib in Palestine, how she went out with the guy she was going to marry. Her mother knew, but just because people talked about that, I mean her own cousin, instigated problems. Her brothers and dad freaked out and literally beat her to death. Unfortunately, this is not an uncommon story. It happens all the time. And this is the damage or the kind of consequences we need to be mindful of the next time we decide to open our mouth to talk about someone. I think the only people who get a say in someone's life are their parents or their spouses. And if they don't have a problem with what someone does, then don't pressure the family and force your opinion down their throat. People need to look at their own families before they start talking about other people's families. Because I bet you, whatever they're talking about is probably happening in their very household. I literally know people who talk about other people's daughters and how they dress and act, even who they're friends with. And their own son goes out partying and getting drunk with God only knows who, but they don't know about it. So just stay in your lane. And remember, don't use religion as an excuse to talk about people and potentially ruin their lives, because this is not what our religion says. Our religion says to nustur ala nas. It's one thing to advise someone, and it's a completely different thing to gossip or instigate problems within their families. And usually, it's really easy to tell the difference. So you can't use, "I'm just advising you," as an excuse. So to conclude this episode, don't put your nose where it doesn't belong. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree with anything? And why? If you made it this far, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed your ride with B.